She didn't raise her voice when she said it, and somehow that made it worse. Carter Whitfield felt the room tighten around him as Margot Thornton's smile lingered just a second too long. He wasn't sure if he was being welcomed into a family or quietly warned about something he didn't yet understand. The chandelier above them cast a warm, golden light across the dining table, but nothing about the moment felt warm. Vivian Aldridge, his fiancée, sat beside him with her hands folded too neatly in her lap. She didn't look at him. She didn't react at all, and that silence told Carter more than any words could have. Margot Thornton leaned back slightly in her chair, her expression calm, almost amused. "We expect certain compromises from you," she repeated softly. Carter forced a polite smile, unsure if he was supposed to laugh or nod. "What kind of compromises?" he asked carefully. Before Margot could answer, Reed Thornton cleared his throat from the head of the table. Vivian's father didn't smile. He didn't soften anything. He simply looked at Carter the way a man looks at a contract he hasn't decided to sign. "That depends," Reed said, his voice low and controlled, "on whether you understand what you're marrying into." Carter's chest tightened. He had expected questions about his career, his income, his background. But this wasn't that. This felt like a negotiation he hadn't agreed to. And somehow, he was already losing ground. Vivian finally spoke, her voice calm but distant. "They're just trying to make sure everything is aligned." Aligned. The word felt sterile. Calculated. Like love had been reduced to terms and conditions. Carter glanced at her, searching for reassurance. But she didn't meet his eyes, and that unsettled him more than anything her parents had said. Dinner continued, but the conversation never returned to anything normal. Every question felt layered. Every answer felt tested. Reed asked about Carter's firm. Margot asked about his long-term financial plans. Neither of them asked anything about how he felt about their daughter. Not once. Halfway through the meal, Carter realized something that made his stomach turn. This wasn't about welcoming him into the family. This was about evaluating whether he could be controlled. And the more he thought about it, the clearer it became. Vivian wasn't just quiet. She was conditioned. "Before we go further," Carter said suddenly, his voice cutting through the tension. He set his fork down, his hands steady despite the pressure building inside him. "What exactly are you asking from me?" Margot's smile returned, softer this time, almost sympathetic. "We're asking for stability," she said. Reed didn't blink. "We're asking for discretion." Carter frowned slightly. Discretion about what? There was a pause. A small one. But it was enough. Enough to confirm that something was being left unsaid. Reed leaned forward slightly. "Our family operates within certain circles," he said, "and those circles require a level of cooperation." Carter felt something shift inside him. Not fear. Not yet. But awareness. This wasn't about expectations. This was about influence. And possibly control. Vivian finally looked at him. Her expression wasn't cold. It wasn't distant. It was conflicted. Like she wanted to say something, but couldn't. Or wouldn't. "Carter," she said softly, "it's not as complicated as it sounds." But her voice didn't match her words. And that contradiction made everything feel heavier. Because if it really wasn't complicated, why did it feel like a trap? The evening ended without resolution. No clear answers. No direct demands. Just implications. And expectations. As Carter stepped outside into the cool Charleston night air, he finally exhaled. Vivian followed him, closing the door gently behind her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them felt different now. Less comfortable. More revealing. "You knew," Carter said quietly. It wasn't a question. Vivian didn't deny it. "They have a certain way of doing things," she said. "And you didn't think I deserved to know that before tonight?" She hesitated, and that hesitation answered everything. "I thought you'd understand once you were here," she said. Carter looked at her, really looked at her, at the way she held herself, at the way she avoided direct confrontation, at the way she had accepted something that didn't feel right. And for the first time, he asked himself a question he hadn't considered before. Was he marrying Vivian? Or was he being absorbed into something much larger than both of them? Before we go further, tell me honestly, if you were in Carter's place right now, would you walk away immediately or stay, and try to understand what you've stepped into. Carter didn't answer her right away, because the truth was he didn't have one yet. But he knew one thing. Whatever this was, it wasn't simple, and it wasn't going to be easy. The next morning, Carter woke up earlier than usual. Not because he wanted to, but because his mind refused to rest. Every word from a night before replayed itself in fragments. Compromises, discretion, alignment. They weren't random. They were deliberate, carefully chosen, and intentionally vague, which made them dangerous. At his office in downtown Charleston, Carter tried to focus on work. But even numbers and contracts couldn't distract him. Because this wasn't a business deal. This was personal. And yet, it felt exactly like one. By midday, he made a decision. Not a final one, but a necessary one. He needed clarity. That evening, he called Vivian. "Let's talk," he said. Not at her parents' house. Not in their carefully controlled environment. But somewhere neutral. They met at a quiet restaurant overlooking the harbor. The setting was calm, peaceful. But the conversation wasn't. "Your parents aren't just asking for respect or boundaries," Carter said. "They're asking for influence." Vivian didn't interrupt. She just listened. "They want a say in decisions that should be ours," he continued. "And I need to know if you're okay with that." There it was. The real question. Not about them, but about her. Vivian took a breath. "I've lived my whole life that way," she admitted. "And you're okay continuing that?" She didn't answer immediately, because the truth wasn't simple. And Carter could see it. See the conflict. See the hesitation. See the years of conditioning pressing against the possibility of change. "I don't know," she finally said. And for the first time, that felt honest. But honesty didn't solve the problem. It just exposed it. Weeks passed, and the tension didn't fade. It evolved. Small requests started appearing. Subtle suggestions. Quiet expectations. Reed offered to advise Carter on an investment. Margot suggested adjustments to their wedding plans. Nothing extreme. Nothing obvious. But enough to confirm a pattern. And Carter noticed something else. Vivian never pushed back. Not directly. Not clearly. And that absence of resistance became its own answer. The midpoint came quietly. Not with an argument. Not with a confrontation. But with a decision. Carter declined Reed's involvement in a major deal. Politely. Professionally. But firmly. And everything changed after that. The tone shifted. The warmth disappeared. And for the first time, the expectations became visible. Reed didn't hide his disappointment. Margot didn't soften her disapproval. And Vivian, she stood in the middle, caught between loyalty and autonomy, between comfort and truth, between what she had always known and what she might be losing. "Do you see it now?" Carter asked her one night. She nodded slowly. But seeing something wasn't the same as acting on it. And that was the real conflict. Not between Carter and her parents, but within Vivian herself. Because walking away from control isn't just a decision. It's a process. And sometimes, it's a painful one. The wedding didn't get canceled, but it didn't move forward the same way either. Plans were paused. Conversations became more honest, more difficult, more real. And for the first time, Carter and Vivian weren't just dealing with each other. They were dealing with everything that came with them. And the outcome wasn't perfect. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't final. But it was real. Because sometimes, the hardest part isn't choosing between staying and leaving. It's understanding what staying actually means. And whether you're willing to live with it.